If there's one word that I had to use to describe Schrodinger's cat and the Raiders of the Lost Quark, it would be clever. A clever use of a platforming mechanic, a clever use of physics and all-around intellectual subject matter to joke about, and a clever use of voice actors and theming to portray a cleverly written story. I don't think I could have used the word clever more there if I tried. Regardless, that's what Schrodinger's cat is all about. An all-around clever game that will be definitely more enjoyable if you understand the humor they are going for, but beyond that, a solid puzzle platformer that has intentional and great level design to make it stand out in more ways than one. The basic story is this: you are Schrodinger's cat, called in to help take care of a situation at the particle zoo. Some of the exhibits have escaped and you've been called in to help out and figure out what's going on. There's an underlying menace that is seemingly in place at the zoo, as the zoo hosts a dark secret that could change the life of the world in question as you know it. I don't want to spoil too much, because what I've experienced of the plot so far has been fun to follow along with and has been a unique experience that people should try and experience. The story's backbone here is based on comedy, which reminds me a lot of the old days of Sam and Max type of humor. It's not exactly the same though, as it's strongly reliant what I would call nerd humor, making references to physics or science-based references or video game references. It's gotten me to smile and laugh along with cringe with the humor that it's displayed. The voice acting is superb for an indie title, as each character has a unique personality that is gotten across exquisitely based on the quality of the voice acting.
And who's ready for another fun-filled day at work at the Particle Zoo, where the subatomic families of the polyverse can come and observe all the elementary particles of the standard model roaming freely and happily in the simulated natural habitat in complete safety?
Let's dive into the main portion of this game, gameplay. You will meet quirks, the helpers in this game that will combine to give you the variety of abilities in the game. There are 4 types of quirks: red for construction, blue for destruction, green for protection, and yellow for motion. You will use the quirks in combination with each other to give your cat the various abilities that he has at his disposal. The abilities range from the ability to move around the map with such things as a helicopter, using 3 yellow quirks, to destroying parts of the maps using powers such as the missile, 2 blue quirks and 1 yellow quirk. In addition, you have support ones, such as one of the main abilities you'll need, netting the foes you need to get back into their cages, using a green, yellow, and red quirk. The combinations all here are unique, and the first section of the game introduces you to most of the combinations in question and shows you an example of when they'd be used. You'll pick up the quirks as you go along and use them up as you use abilities, so picking up as many quirks as you find is key in sections, just to have the options available on hand. I'll divide the gameplay I've experienced into 2 major sections. First are the more linear sections, where there are a limited amount of quirks to use that test your ability to think about using the combos in question. Usually the gameplay here is straightforward, but they will test your ability ever so often to look at a situation given the quirks you have and use them in a way that you might not have first thought about before. These sections are alright, as they are good training tools and help the player get adjusted to the mechanics in question or look at the game as they might not have looked at it before. But the place where the game shines is the more open sections of the game, where quarks are scattered all about, and you have a lot more freedom to use any combo you want. Here's where the brilliant design comes in. To capture the enemies in question, you'll need to first stun the enemy in question so that you can capture them with a net. Now you can melee without using a quirk, but a good amount of the time you won't have that option, as you will have to use the quirks to stun them. In this case, you will most likely need a blue destruction quirk, as most of the offensive abilities center around him. You then need to capture them with the green, yellow, red net combo. What's brilliant here is that the gameplay is just the right amount of ease and difficult. You see, you may develop a favorite combo to catch quirks, such as using the trap power that uses 2 blue and 1 red, or 1 red and 2 blue, but sooner or later you'll run low on those quirks. Now on these sections of the map, the quirks do respawn on where you find them, and you're more than willing to run back and grab the quirks you need again to continue using what you're used to. However, those not wanting to backtrack will want to get more creative with their use of quirks, and use the quirks they have more on hand so that they have the ability to capture or stun quirks without running back later on. In short, there is unlimited ammo in the section, but you have to run to get it. And that's where it shines. If you get frustrated with attempting to get a monster with your favorite quirk present, there's no reason you can't run back and get more of the quirks in question, but of course you're wasting your time in that case. But it rewards you for using your head, such as creating a trampoline for your cat to bounce on so you can get into the melee range, for example. This is how you make a game accessible, where those with different mindsets have the same ability to complete the puzzles in question. When it comes down to it, it all has to do with how they set up the combos. Your goal is to capture these monsters, and there's only one combo that you can do that with, the net combo, with green, yellow, and red. However, in terms of using quirks to attack your enemies, your main arsenal will come from the blue quirk, but you'll need 3 quirks to do your work, so it becomes a game of resource management seemingly at times. How can I most efficiently use my collection of quirks on hand to grab as many enemies as possible? How do I use my current quirks to get more quirks that may be scattered throughout the level, so that I can use the powers that I absolutely need in order to advance? Do I need the glides in the next section to grab more blue quirks to stun the monsters? Can I avoid using the yellow quirks that I have so little of so I have the chance to use the net ability? Most of the powers here here have a great benefit to use them, as one doesn't necessarily shine over the other. Sure, the trap will immediately take out an enemy anywhere on screen, but do I want to do that when I can throw a missile and take out multiple enemies at once? Italic Pig, the developer of the game, has given you the tools to do what you need to do, and it's up to you to choose how to use them. I cannot praise them more for the solid game design they put up here. It all circles around too. The use of the linear sections help break up the open sections of the map and makes you change your mindset, which adds variance in the game and helps you to keep on thinking. Art and sound design aren't lacking here either. One of the first things I noticed was the catchy music on the title screen, and the miscellaneous works throughout the playthrough. The voice acting is superb as mentioned. Even non-cut scenes such as the cat scolding himself for making a mistake are done well and add to the experience as a whole. It helps with clever writing, of course, but you'll almost want to run into hazards just to see what the cat has to say next. The style of the enemies, quirks, and characters have a cartoon-like appeal with strong use of facial expressions and over-the-top animation. You want to keep looking deeper and deeper for things you might have missed, such as the math and science symbols that come out of the cat when performing a melee attack or running across a dozing enemy. The quirky mood is highlighted by the animation quite well, and the sound is as well. Picking up a quirk will have them happy and delighted to be with you with a triumphant cheer, or cry for help if they're about to go away. Honestly, I had trouble coming up with a lot of negatives for the game. The controls can feel floaty at times, especially when jumping, and may lead to some frustration there if you're trying to make a precise jump. At times I felt like I had the space to place down a bounce pad, for example, and found that it failed to do so, even though I thought it had the room. The original tutorial section seemed like it was going to be too long and was on the edge of getting boring, but was a necessary evil to introduce you to the mechanics of the game. The game definitely has a more intelligent audience in mind to get the humor, as some of the references may go over someone's head that's not knowledgeable, and yet I still can see them enjoying the platform puzzle sections of the game. The only other real negative I can think of is the lack of the options menu and the pause menu of the game, as I wanted to turn up and down the music and couldn't do so. Honestly, I'll give you one thing that I don't understand: why this game isn't being talked about more, or why I didn't hear anything about it up to this point. This game oozes creativity, innovation, and just plain old good design all over the place. It'll hook you into its element and make you want to see where it takes you. It's a shining example of what an indie studio can produce, and is open enough to people who may not be a fan of the puzzle platforming genre in question. It's a shame that it's not on people's radar at the price of $11.99, which is $3 off the normal price of Steam. It's most certainly worth it at that price in my opinion, just for the presentation alone, but for a game this well designed in the game mechanic portion, you owe it to yourself to get this game if you have the chance. You can wait for a Steam sale I suppose, but honestly, in some form or fashion this game deserves your attention.